studying history, and I thought, hey, well, I'm not a historian, and I need to do a bit more research on this particular topic. Um, but I'm an amateur historian. I'm also a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons, and I just was thinking about how did the Romans go from a couple different tribes to uh, a type of senate, and but what we know is there were families who were running the Roman, you know, republic and running the Roman Empire. Um, if you talk to outsiders, like, well, it's like a dozen or 20 different families that run, the Romans. The the way I'm thinking of it is when you have a people that go from tribal, and tribal is identity. It's based on the identity as well as strength that the tribe is able to claim territory and land, and then over generations, essentially write into their own mythology. This is how and why we own and control this land. Um, so going forward into the early Roman period, um, they would essentially have votes, but they would vote by body. And what that means is that the tribe would, or basically, all the unified Romans would say, okay, here's an issue. We need to place a vote on this, and we're going to vote by body. So each tribe would sort of break out, discuss, and then have their own vote in terms of what they thought was, they wanted things to go. So the majority vote based on the tribe would then determine the way that entire tribe voted. So if you had a majority vote in a tribe, that tribe would vote a certain way, and then you would count the tribes which way they voted. Um, so, why am I thinking about this? Why am I thinking about Dungeons and Dragons and how this relates? Um, when you have people living in a place over time, and they're going to naturally diversify, naturally sort of live here, live there, um, and do different trades, different tasks. So you got the farmers, the carpenter, the woodcutters, the stone cutters, the people who make food, the people who uh, deal with animals, um, wagon makers, rope makers, clothing makers, things like that. As time goes on, these become essentially the father passes to the son, kind of training these trades. Um, and as you move from primitive tribal into settled society, and you start getting into cash economy, the based on how many people there are, how delicate, how challenging it is to create the product. Um, like some people are going to be wealthy, some people not so wealthy. So the wealthy people will start dominating in a group over the less wealthy people. So if you have a tribal body that gets together and says, hey, we recognize that we all share this common lineage, this common heritage, we claim ownership of this piece of land, and we claim participation in certain things uh, like basically participation in ability to obtain resources, or participation in the ability to access to governing, access to voting, and determining which direction does our community go. So a tribe moves into a valley, they settle down. Um, People go out, and a family occupies this, a family takes care of that, a family is involved with that. And as time goes on, they become sort of ingrained and develop and expand their area of interest and expertise. You go from tribes having a broad and nebulous sense of self and identity and possession to these wealthy families who will continuously try to consolidate and unify their power, and based on political affiliation. So all these guys share a common heritage. They share familial bonds because they would likely have been marrying, and related to each other and marrying, off for arranged marriages, as well as political marriages. So like marrying these two for a good match, good wealthy outcome, um, and because that's the thing that was interesting, that I thought was fascinating, was the transition from tribal to settled society, and how does the political body go from, well, we voted by tribe, and now we're going to a newer form of representative government, um, and but the reason for that is the wealthy people, they're consolidating their power. They want to continue to consolidate their power and have influence over the political decision making. So uh, that's where you're going to get this the transition from a tribe to artisans to wealthy families. And the wealthy families um, consolidate the power, both in terms of the tribe and consolidating the power in terms of where they're at politically. Um, there's a lot more going on for Rome because there's patricians and plebeians, two different classes of people, um, and the there's intermarriages between those tribes, or between those classes. Um, let's see what else, but yeah, I just thought it was interesting and something I wanted to discuss and present because if you're running a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, you're like, okay, what's going on with these people, this society? How did they go from tribal to settled, and how do the politics play out? So I thought these would be some ideas to explore and share with you guys. And so if you're interested, anyways, let me know what you think.